4:15-ish, on Thursday, March 14th. And our first order of business will be to take nominations for board chair.
I nominate Ann Beecham.
Second.
Any other nominations? Discussion? All those in favor of Ann?
Aye.
All right, I'll turn it over to you.
Alrighty then. So welcome to the new school board. I will now entertain nominations for a vice chair. Okay, somebody has to be vice chair. I'm not
Can you
allowed-
self-nominate?
Would you like to be nominated?
I would like to be nominated.
I nominate Jamie Cumspot as vice chair.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't hear any opposition. And nominations for a board clerk.
I'll do it. If no one else wants to.
Awesome, I nominate Tim Morris.
I see.
All those in favor? Aye. You may commence anything. We have to have nominations for the SU voting members, but guess what, guys? Alice said she doesn't want to, and I'm already on the SU board.
Oh, that makes it easy.
That makes it easy. So I nominate Sergio, Jamie, and Tim.
How many does it have to be?
3. Basically, since Alice doesn't want to, and I'm already there, you guys are in. All those in favor? Aye. Now, we wanted to talk about meeting time. The thought that I heard is that we might want to move it to later, like 6:30 or 7, so that more townspeople can come if they want to. Does that work better for you, Sergio?
Actually, yeah, a little bit. 14 could be a little challenging.
Yeah, I figured times are in the day things.
Usually flying out the door, tired of smoking, so yeah, that's fine.
Well, heard.
Okay.
6:30 is better than 7, although, for instance, we use 6 meets at 7, but we're done by 8.
Sometimes. Usually.
Yeah, usually. Lunch after 8:30, and I don't quite turn into a pumpkin, but start to get there.
So,
Because it can be 2-hour meetings as a regular.
Yeah.
yeah, we got, so 6:30 sound better than 7 to everybody?
6:30 works for me.
Okay, so we will establish our new meeting day and time as Thursday at 6:30.
And we're second and fourth.
Yes, we are second and fourth. Okay, and now we have committee appointments, and I cannot remember all of them.
I think I have a list.
I have a list that Christina gave me, but she has committees that, okay, WSCSU Finance, which is probably the most important appointment we will make. Sergio, I really want to ask you, because I really feel like this is in your skill set.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
Okay, so I nominate Sergio Zvonovich.
I second.
All those in favor?
Herb, can you get onto internet here?
Finances.
Yeah.
Panther Paw, hashtag, whatever.
Say it one more time.
Panther, pound sign, I call it the pound sign.
I think she's young enough to remember it as a pound sign.
Panther,
We don't
pound,
have to-
and what else?
That's it.
That should get you on.
Okay, we don't actually have appointments to the next 3, oh no, there's 2 committees, sabbatical leave and special education. Those are as needed positions.
I'll do special ed, that's my background.
Excellent.
So can you please say what these are for again? These are for the SU?
Nope, so
SU
these are.
committee or the,
It says
or
WSSU,
our committee?
but it should say, WSSU is WSSU.
Yeah, the finance position is the issue.
Yeah, but
SU, okay.
sabbatical should be Putney. I don't know why it says WSSU.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
That only happens if you have a teacher here who requests a sabbatical. And then I need to pull together a team that includes one of you and a union rep, and then we review the process. You make a recommendation, we bring it back to the board to make the final decision. The first time that I don't know that it's ever happened here in Putney. It happened this year in Brattleboro twice. So it does happen, but not on a regular basis. So that's why right now it just says as needed, so.
Okay. The only list I had seen of committees was the one that was committee reports.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
So it's
so we
different.
don't usually have sabbatical reports on.
Okay, got it.
So the SU teacher negotiations, we will actually need to do this year?
In the fall.
In the fall,
We'll
there will be a negotiation with the teachers union. Anybody?
I would love to.
All right, I nominate Jamie Cunningham.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what else have we got?
Classified staff will also start this fall.
Yeah, okay.
Do you need to nominate me for special ed, or?
Yeah, sorry, did we not nominate? I know.
Yeah, I think we actually did.
Okay.
I think we're going with an okay kind of voice
Yeah,
for
okay.
most things at the moment.
Whatever works.
I don't only two types of Robert's Rules of Order, or we won't be Putney anymore. So the classified staff negotiations, do you think that's better lumped with another person? Or, like with the teacher negotiations or finance?
So we're going to need, in the past, how it's worked is that we have two separate contracts. We will again, usually the board negotiating team and the classified staff negotiating team will meet, give me direction, Frank and me direction as to how they want us to proceed. Generally, what's happened in the past is we act as your designees and do the negotiating around everything from benefits to percent raise to actual language in the contract. And because they're two separate, we try to do them together as much as possible. So I don't think you need two separate people. I think, for instance, if Jamie is on both, there may be sometimes when we had two meetings, but in the past, it's been the same meeting that we've talked about both. So.
And literally any committee appointment is open to negotiation later if you go, I can't make those because they're at X time when I can't be there, that kind of thing.
So the committee we're discussing now is which committee?
The classified staff, so that's the paraeducators, the custodians,
The not teachers.
the non-certified teachers, right, non-licensed teachers.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we go with that. Diversity, I would love to keep that position, but anybody who wants to come with me, it's fine.
I would love to shadow you at some point. I don't need any official capacity on that. I just want to understand what we're doing, because that's a real passion of mine.
It might as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, we have second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday, is
Each
that
month at
meeting?
3:45
Okay.
at BAMS.
Okay, oh, so it's a SUI,
It's a
business,
SUI.
right?
Mhm.
And Robin Morgan on that?
Yes,
Okay,
at least she was yesterday.
okay, yeah.
I assume as well.
Okay, great.
So I will keep that one.
Okay.
Endowment, you had it before.
Oh, we never met.
Okay then.
Sure.
Um,
I thought Alice did. I could have sworn Alice did that.
It's got your name on it.
Okay.
So this probably didn't meet either.
Yeah.
The school forest. Now, we have Emily's name there, and Lionel Schutz, and Ann Carey's. I would love to ask Emily if she'd be willing to do it again, because
She's awesome.
I would appoint her queen of the forest if that were within my possibility.
Sure, why not?
Okay, I'll ask her, and if it doesn't, if she's like, no, I'm off the skill board now, we'll figure something else out.
That's to another point, a question I have is, so does that mean we can invite folks to come into this process who aren't on the school board to serve on these committees?
Generally, there's a board rep that,
On
so right now we have Lionel and Ann as community members. I assume what's going to happen is Emily's going to be, you're going to have 3 community members, but someone here is going to need to be the
Okay.
Go to.
But you could invite other folks onto the diversity and, okay, cool.
Well, we'll talk to the rest of the diversity committee about that.
Right.
Because sometimes
They
they,
say no.
no, sometimes they like to say things quietly. You know,
Okay.
most of the time it's not challenging, occasionally it can be very challenging.
Yeah.
I think we should nominate someone for.
I think
on
you
the
should,
board.
yeah,
Okay.
to be on the board and
I'd be
ask
willing to do
Emily
it.
to, if she'll continue.
So,
I
is
think
anyone,
we'll do it.
okay then. Any objections to Tim making that? Buildings and grounds, you want to stay?
Sure.
The Putney Food Project, I mean, Alice said she wanted to cut way, way down on her board appointments, but I don't know if she wants to get rid of them. So we might want to ask her if she'd like to stay on that committee.
She's done a lot of that work. She might appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, we had 2 reps on it, but I don't know that that's required. And then FACT, which was also Alice and you.
Yeah. I don't need to stay on that. No.
Okay. Amy, interested?
So when I say yes to 3 or 4 committee assignments, is that 3 or 4 additional meetings per month?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, but rarely.
Right.
I would like to say no to that one because especially if we're going into the fall with teachers,
In the fall, you'll-
like
yeah,
that's
you'll be
going to
very
be
busy.
really significant and I would like to not be distracted from the responsibilities here and there.
Fair enough.
So is there enough of us for someone else to do that? Because it seems like we
We can
each
do that
have to say
too.
yes
Okay.
to
Some of
about
the
5
stuff is-
things.
Yes.
Relatively light lifting, so some of that meeting heavy.
Yeah. I don't think we've had much of a match lately.
Are we taking off 2 and putting in?
Well, how about if we ask Alice what she wants when she gets back? Do you
So
know
we
when
have-
she's coming back, or
Yeah, this weekend.
this weekend? Thank you.
I'm assuming.
I don't know. I might stay if I were her.
Wow.
Just saying.
Yeah. Very nice.
Okay. Hang on, I have to find my agenda again. And so we did all of those things. Do you want to move to any particular place?
So I wondered, because this says review, prioritize, and establish desired outcomes, I wondered if we could, because I do have a hard leave today at 6:15, if we could move the executive session discussion up
Mhm.
and have that done, because that's one of the things that I would want to be here for.
Right.
And then we can go back and go through the rest of it, if that's all right.
Do that now.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move that we enter executive session. Is there a,
Yes, I'll read it for you. In accordance with VSA Title 313, Section 4, a disciplinary or dismissal action against a public officer or employee, but nothing in the subsection shall be construed to impair the right of such officer or employee to a public hearing if formal charges are brought.
Go ahead and say.
So you will need to turn off your camera, and we'll tell you when you can come back in.
Rise.
I move that we rise.
We don't actually need a motion.
We just,
Yep, we just rise.
Yeah, we just rise.
we rise.
Yep,
There we
we
go.
rise at 10 till 11 till 4.
Do you want to make that motion now?
Yes. I move that this board publishes nothing without discussing it in a meeting and approving it for publication going forward. What do you say? Anyway.
Done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So, all right. So, does anyone have any communications?
Anybody check the box?
No,
I'm gonna do that.
please do. I will get that.
I'll get it because it's locked.
Or maybe somebody else will who actually comes here when the office isn't locked.
So are we going back to number 2? Review,
Yes.
prioritize, establish. What does that mean?
So anytime at a board meeting, if you need to move something in the agenda, it needs to be done at the start of the meeting. If you need to add things that weren't on the agenda, it needs to
So that's point two, is like, are there additional agenda items?
And usually we wouldn't have all of the, we had to do the reorganization and get all the officers in place before we could do anything else today.
So normally that's step one.
That's,
But if they, Deb was here to talk to us about the forest or something, we might very well rearrange and let him talk and then go home. That's something we try to do for people who just want to talk to us about one particular thing.
Okay, great.
So we often move the guest agenda up to higher on the agenda. Okay, so we're just going to check on communications. In the meantime, how about the minutes? Which I bet Jamie has not seen.
I looked at the ordinance, but I didn't feel like I was in a place to approve them, so you have quorum to approve them.
Yes,
Without me.
it's customary to abstain when you haven't been at the meeting, but,
Yeah.
okay. Do I hear a motion?
I don't have the date.
20.
February 28th.
I move that we approve the minutes of 2/28.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstentions?
I abstained.
Okay. The minutes are approved. And, let's see. Hi, Deb, we're recognizing you.
I'm sorry?
We're just recognizing that you're here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for
back.
coming.
Glad to be here. My first one.
And it's your last name's Grant?
I'm sorry.
It's Grant?
Grant, G-R-A-N-D-T.
Grant, right?
It's a German spelling, Grant,
Okay.
yeah.
So, can I just say that I really appreciate you volunteering to videotape today?
I'm sorry, to what?
Thank you for volunteering to videotape today.
There's a little reverb and echo right.
No worries.
My hearing isn't great to begin with.
These rooms aren't conducive to good
Yeah.
hearing.
No, nothing,
Apparently nothing there.
nothing. Nope.
Okay, cool. All right, so moving on to finance, we need to ratify the warrants. Thanks, Olivia.
Okay. I move that we approve the PTSD food service warrants in the amount of $2,710.04. And that we also, can we do it in the same motion? That we also approve the PTSD warrants in the amount of $52,813.58.
Do we hear a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Obviously, no one's opposed. Moving right along, administrative reports.
So is those,
do you want to go first?
Sure, yes.
top copy of each of those.
Okay. How many?
There's the ledger, is that
The
still coming around?
payroll should, it's not in there?
I didn't see.
I didn't see the payroll
Okay.
either.
I'm going to assume we're going to pay them anyway.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might
Going out,
all be
going
here.
out on a limb there, already?
Yeah, I'm going out on a limb.
Yeah, so we had the evac drill yesterday. It wasn't, I think in this day and age, people sort of immediately go to the worst case scenario and get parents get anxious about it and how we might manage that information flow to kids and so forth. But this particular drill was never designed to be that, wasn't that. It was just like, hey, something might happen when we need to leave the building. So for example, I think it was like 3 years ago, Oak Grove had maybe 4 now, but Oak Grove had a boiler mishap. And it was like, 2 degrees out. So it wasn't, it's an older building. It wasn't too long before they needed to make a choice. So they left. They happened to walk to, I think they walked to Green Street that day. But so something like that, Nothing that we're in a big panic about. And it went really well. The kids were great. We had it well organized from the outset. We had some observers there from law enforcement, and The fire department had about 6 people. They were trying to sort of figure out, like, so if this ever happened, what would we do? So it was a good, it was a good logistical exercise for them as well. So I've been thinking about doing this for quite a while, and we never have done it. So it was good. And I think, it's something we could do every couple of years, couple of 3 years. We don't have to do it every year. Just so that there's sort of a little bit of muscle memory for the kids, like, oh yeah, we did this once before, kind of thing. Do I have any questions about that? No? Okay, good.
I asked for a report from Noah, and he said that it was very exciting, and there were lots of police and lots of fire trucks.
Yeah, lots to look at. No sirens or anything like that, but it's always a little adventure to get out there and do something a little different for the kids, so it was fun. And the people here, the adults, were all terrific and did a great job, so it worked well. The other thing, I spent today as part of a cohort from the district, and a couple of other people too, actually, from outside the district, down at the high school in the multi-purpose room, being part of a remote broadcast of a workshop on trauma. So this has really been not only in the news quite a bit, but obviously in the educational community, it's been a hot topic for several years now, and all of the schools in this district are trying to get on board with the educational piece for ourselves as adults in the building, and then by extension, trying to support families and kids and families who are either victims of trauma or are actively involved in situations that would be reasonably considered traumatic. So this was, they had a 4-day series. This is one 4-day series event, 2 and 2 different people presenting, and I'm in the second half, so of those 2, second of 2, that bracket of 2, I guess I'd say. And it was great. And one of the reasons it was really satisfying for me was not only did I reinforce some of the stuff that I'd already known, but learned a few new things. But one of the hassles that we've had with professional development in Massachusetts, where we are, according to some people, is that a lot of this stuff, like the Vermont Higher Ed Collaborative and so forth, they put on some really great programs, but 98% of them happen in Montpelier.
Or north.
Or further north, Burlington, whatever. And it just weren't convenient. So just on a lark, Wendy Cullen, who's a person that we've worked with over the years in different capacities as a consultant and so forth, is one of the people running the program now. And through Julianne Egan, who works as a curriculum coordinator here, I said, hey, let's talk to Wendy. Let's see if we can't set up a remote broadcast situation using something like Zoom, which we did use today. So I think there was 17, I think I counted 17 people there today. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is that I think that, it's that technology's there. My guess is that maybe 2 or 3 of those people would have made the trek up to Montpelier for this, So it's something that shows promise. So there was this series, and the other thing around trauma was there was a 5-day series with a guy who's very highly regarded in the state, as well as the people who were doing this, by the name of Dave Melnick. And Robert Brooks, who runs the, I hesitate to call it the planning room, we call it the turnaround room, did the 5-day series with Dave around the trauma-informed work, which Robert has plenty of experience with based on his past working life in group homes and so forth. But so he shared that. So we've been doing our best to work this into the routine awareness conversations with people about particular kids, because it's no surprise we're seeing more and more of this happening. Putney's no different than any place else. And the percentage of kids who are presenting with issues related to trauma has increased significantly during my time here. And it's pretty pervasive. So we want to be ready, and we're doing the best that we can to help these kids and their families. that's all I've got for now.
Is there something that could be shared with us that is best practices for supporting kids with trauma? That could be, I don't know how you disseminate that, but it seems like I would love to read that as a parent, if there was some kind of PowerPoint or something that was generated.
Yeah, they typically will share those PowerPoints, but they don't want them going anywhere else. There's a ton of stuff that's out there that you could just Google on trauma-informed schools. That would be a good search term, you'll find a ton of
NFI's
stuff.
website is pretty good. Dave works for NFI.
NFI?
Yeah.
It's Northeast Family Institute. And they
Yeah.
have a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, I think Joelle Van Lent has some stuff on her site too.
Okay, cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
So to piggyback on Herb's first with safety, we, Brattleboro Fire Department, organized a safety training. FEMA actually came and did it, school safety. It was great. Actually, Tom Goddard was there on Tuesday. Now I know why he wasn't there on Wednesday. He was probably here leading that. There was another woman from Putney there as well. Many of the local administrators, fire, rescue, as far away as UVM, as far south as Bentley College. And we went through a number of scenarios, able to work in groups with others in our district. Just what would happen? What would you do? What would be your first step? Where would you all go? How do people know what they're supposed to do? We work on school safety pretty regularly in WSESU. And actually next month at our leadership meeting, first responders are coming to do a tabletop exercise with all of the leadership. So it's something that every few months we continue to work on. We can't get enough training. And as I've said to first responders, they are the experts. We're educators. We know how to teach. We our background is not school safety. So we need them to help us learn and walk through that. And every first responder, from Tom here in Putney to Jared Bristol and Guilford, everyone in the area is more than happy to come and work at the school and be here for drills, to give us feedback, tell us, maybe you could try this next time. So that's that. The other thing, and I only have one other, a comment was made actually at the Putney town meeting that the Attorney General had put out a memo that towns should be passing individual budgets. And so I called the VSBA attorney, Nicole Mace, and the Vermont Superintendent's Association attorney, Emily Simmons. The Attorney General did not put out any sort of memo. It's fine that you did, but there was nothing that was nothing put out formally from the Attorney General that indicated that you must do that. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. This is the only town meeting where that comment was made. In an age of fake news, I'm very, very tuned into, whoa, how did I miss that memo? And in fact, I didn't. So I just want to make sure. And it's good tonight that Doug is here so that people that can know that wasn't. And I've been busy with Career Center interviews, and Emerson is also in the almost final stages up there, so most of my time has been taken up in interviews the last 2 weeks. So I'm hoping to get those settled and get back to work.
Very quickly. And I literally don't remember who made that comment at town meeting, but she's right, that didn't come from...
Yes,
Yeah, it
it
did.
came before.
Yeah, and it was a suggestion of people who are working against murder. That they'd be prepared, and that's kind of what we've settled into privately here, is pursuing both paths. We're prepared to merge or not to merge. So,
We have contingency plans.
yeah, particularly since the Secretary of Education issued a threat just the other day, and that is true, not fake news. It's right there in black and white. So I'm not sure what legal means he has I mean, that could just be a very, very empty threat. I do.
What was the threat?
That if towns did not merge, he was prepared, the agency was prepared to, I don't remember, go after us,
Take legal action.
take legal action to
They've had-
all legal remedies that were available to them. I'd like to point out that one legal remedy that is not available to them is removing a school director. There is no legal means to remove an elected official from office in the state of Vermont, and Pietro told me that, so I know it's true. Pietro is an attorney who works for us, supervisor meetings sometimes.
Oh.
So that, don't let anybody try to scare you with that particular threat. Okay. So, and that's all you have? That's all her has. I'd like to welcome Ann Fines, who was not here. Do you have something you want to talk to us about, or?
No, it's just the beginning of a new cycle.
Yes, it is.
And so here I am, I was interested.
That's fine, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you.
Welcome.
And put in so many years on this school board, I mean, every kid here owes something to her.
I think the endowment was originally from you, is that? I believe you were large in getting us set up with the endowment, is that true? Yeah.
So we would move on to committee reports right now. I don't know that anyone has gone to a committee, except I went to the diversity committee meeting yesterday, and mostly we talked about Noam Chomsky and some plans we have for Diversity Day, which is May the 4th in downtown Brattleboro.
That was fun last year.
It's fun.
Right.
It's
It's a good day.
We're gonna have better spaces this time. We're gonna be using 118 Elliott for the art show as opposed to the empty furniture store with no electricity that's halfway up the block. And we will have music, and this year, now that I have a clue, I'll know where to raid if we don't have things. Like,
Maybe we won't have rain.
well, like, let's say the tent that went to blow away, we've got a whole fly system there at the high school that is not currently in use, and I know how to pick up a stage there. So that was the big thing. Nobody went to finance because that had the analysis committee. I'll get a report from Russ Janis on Monday at the high school meeting, so I'll be happy to pass that along. I don't know that any of the other committees have met. Anybody? Okay. And obviously Jamie wouldn't be on one, so. Consequently, we can move on to unfinished business. We have town meeting day follow-up. Anybody want to talk? And we should wait for Jamie because I bet she does have something to say. So we can just sit here for a few moments, and I think we're going to get you out of here on time. And me too. La la la.
Yes, pages.
My email box is red, orange and green. There are like 3 lines that are neither orange nor green, and those things mean school board things.
PSBA is taking a position against those.
And apparently I left my flashlight in the conference room. Because Keith Orman just emailed me to tell me he found it, and he has it in his office.
Well, that's good, somebody found it for you.
Yeah. She's going to feel really foolish when she walks back in there and we're entirely silent. And I was like, yay, I can make up for this, I can catch up on my emails.
Oh, she's got it.
There.
I was catching up on email, I was like, wow, she's good. I can just work.
So do you have to pause when I depart?
Well, because the next topic of discussion was a town meeting day follow-up.
Oh, okay. So meaning that diversity, finance, forest, and all is done?
That's probably because the only committee who had a report was diversity,
Okay,
because I went.
got it.
And a lot of these are Alice committees that are not anymore necessarily. And finance, I couldn't make it. Finance is not my strongest suit, though I'm not completely useless. I grasp the big picture.
This is a good, I have to go through
Well, I figured somebody in your position probably knew a lot about budgets and reading budgets and understanding budgets. So,
this. Budget season. So.
yep, 'tis the season for budgets.
And they don't meet every other month except in October, November-ish when we're actually getting the next
Yeah.
budget out.
That's fine.
It's not-
It's not an onerous
Yeah.
scheduled meeting, so. So town meeting day follow-up. Anybody have anything?
So is it specific to what happened on town meeting?
It's anything we'd like to talk about that happened at town meeting, anything else we can bring up under new business?
I think the most important thing that I really wanted to name, and I'd like to name it in front of Herb and just others, is that as a new school board member, I was looking for a pathway to support a process for if we have contested elections in the future, that our board identifies a process by which folks could communicate. I asked if we'd had contested school board elections in the past, and the answer was, no one can remember the last time a school board, contested school board election. I said, no, but in the past, like, a lot of you maybe are new, and they started asking around. So I thought that it was just because I've done election work for so long, just supporting a process and an agreement with each other. So if that's a policy that's at the SU level, I wanted to inquire. I wanted to inquire if it's a policy we could set as a Putney Central School Board. Just that if there is a contested race, that there is a space and an agreed upon way in which we communicate with each other, that different folks have access to communicating with the public, and that we set up protocols for just how we are thoughtful with each other, even in challenging dynamics. So that was a hope that I had, and that I didn't feel like I had received that in the process, so I wanted to support that moving forward.
Okay, I'm not sure that Herb would literally be allowed to pass on, like attaching to the newsletter, one candidate, or to give you the mailing list.
I wondered, yeah, and the thought that I had is if there's a way to communicate to folks about all of the candidates' positions on things, I just didn't know what the norms were around that. And then also setting up expectations around, particularly in the case where an existing board that might be challenged, we're allowed to use the communication to all the parents in a way that only allowed one side of an issue to be expressed to the entire. That was the only place where I was concerned about it, was that if that tool was being used by the existing board, and there wasn't a place to air concerns as somebody who might be challenging that. So that's what I wondered, if there was a way to create norms of fairness around communication, and what our expectations were about that. So I just wanted to raise that as something we could talk about and figure out collaboratively. Yeah, because to have one person have access to all, there's things that don't make sense, but we could figure out something that did make sense.
Well, certainly no members of this board are allowed to actually electioneer, so we couldn't put it in the newsletter saying vote for Jamie.
Correct. Right.
And I know that none of us have access to the parent mailing list.
No, I mean, the only access you would have to that sort of information is if you were a parent and you had the parent directory, which is available every year, but not everybody signs or wants their information out there in that form either, so, It has never been an issue in my 9 years here, because we've never had a contested election. And without going too far into the weeds with that, the newsletter is a place for stuff that's information to the school community specifically, and the school board is a broader community conversation, right? So I generally, nobody's really ever asked me to do anything like that. So I've never solicited it, and I don't anticipate doing that in the future.
I did like the thing that the PTO had made for you with to put in the newsletter with all of the candidates on it.
Yeah, that was something that I you know,
That's
they said,
perfect.
yeah, can you put this in? I looked at it, I said, yeah, it's kind of a neutral thing, sure, I can do that.
I'm afraid that probably like you can't just walk into the floor of the Senate and say, I'm running for a position, everybody has to listen to me now. I think it might work that way with us, and you need to, well, you are a community organizer, but you
Right.
need to hook up with the other community organizers and make an evening of it, or something like that.
Yeah, and I think the only reason I'm raising it is just because the request of an individual board member to communicate on the Saturday prior to the election through our listserv to all parents in a way that looked like it was trying to impact the election a couple days later. And then my name was explicitly stated in that communication without any alternative side of an information, made it look like it felt to me that it was, my name was being used unfairly without any context or information prior to an election. And so what I'm asking for us, and I can be more explicit, is that we set up norms and expectations for how we use our PCS listserv in a way that is fair and equal, even in cases where there are challenging dynamics in communities like contested elections. And so I wanted to create a conversation around that so that we could elevate our process and understand what our group norms are. And so I'm not asking for candidates to have access to things that doesn't make sense. I'm thinking about how do we create a conversation that says, this is a policy, this is how we behave, this is what our norms are. And so that's kind of what I was trying to imply without directly saying it.
We can have that conversation. I'd be happy to have that conversation. In the meantime, of course, you know, all of us, we've moved in and passed this, that all of us will have to at least approve by majority anything that's published. And if there's a dissenting opinion, that will also be published. Obviously, we can't take 27 pages of your news.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I would rather not have that publication
Yeah,
be sort of, you know, steered in that direction.
that's what I had in
There's other
mind.
forums that are available for those sorts of things.
I agree with you. That's pretty much why we moved
Yeah.
that we would have to all agree to do something, because if we want to share it, it would be important.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if there's an emergency, like, oh my God, don't have the kids come to school tomorrow because the floor fell down, or, you know, or something.
I usually have pretty.
You
good
usually do
judgment.
that, but, you know, we could, I certainly could see why whoever was standing in the building when the floor collapsed might say, Herb put it in the newsletter, don't bother, you know, we won't have a meeting.
Oh, I see.
Emergencies are different. That's what I mean, emergencies are different.
Gotcha.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I agree with you, Herb, it's not, it's like summer camps, jump rope for hearts, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
our student won the math contest, or, you know,
Right.
things like that. I agree with you that that is what it's for.
Yeah.
We are allowed to communicate, like, I can give it to the admin and say, please send this out. But that would be from all of us, not just from any one of us, or really from anybody outside. I'm afraid if we want to have another contested school election, we're gonna need to have it, like, pin people down, and say, someone hold a candidates forum, or a debate, or something. And though I certainly don't blame you, Jamie, for being distressed with the accusation leveled at you. Anything else? You want to talk about it at town meeting, Diane? I value this woman's opinion, so if she shows up, I'm going to ask her things like that. So we don't have any other unfinished business, I don't think. Done the executive session. BCTV. Now,
That sounds something to do with
it's in our
I read
actual,
the article today, so,
yeah, they're trying to keep BCTV alive.
yeah.
And Jamie has indicated an interest in recording our meetings, and now that like every meeting I'm in practically gets recorded, I don't care. The thing is that to get BCTV in is $100 a session.
I contacted them and they indicated even more.
Oh, it's gone up then. Well, they need money now, they're fighting
Yeah.
to stay alive, so.
They lost their
Um,
system, right?
We did not put that in our budget. And I don't know if they would air something that, like, the videotape for us.
Do you want me to speak to that because I've researched it?
Oh, please.
Okay, so one of the things that I was looking for when I was trying to decide to run was the footage of the Putney School Board meetings, because I was aware that Brattleboro and Dummerston videotaped theirs, as well as at SU
In high school.
and the high school, yeah, all of Brattleboro School. So when I looked for the video footage and realized we didn't have it, I thought, how do parents like me who are home with the 2 kids and can't necessarily get out participate or understand what's going on? And so I started writing up ideas for how to build transparency and access for folks that are working parents or juggling multiple kids or whatever stops folks from participation. And one of the things was videotaping of meetings. And so it sounded like a number of the folks who have done videotaping, they have 2 meetings a month, they only videotape 1. It's usually about $100 a month because it's $100 to get BCTV to come out with a person, the equipment. And then that's put up online, and so it's about a $1,200 budget item annually. And I had heard from some folks, they're frustrated with the fact that only one of the meetings, not both of the meetings, get videotaped, because then you miss whatever the other half of the meetings are that year. So if you thought of that, then it's a $2,400 budget item. So I thought, here I'm a new school board member, maybe a legacy wouldn't be adding $2,400 to the budget at the first meeting. So,
You can't add to the budget.
well, meaning asking that we go through a process that would add to the budget at some point in the future at my first meeting. So one of the things I inquired about is, one, can you have volunteers videotape? And so I looked into getting my own video equipment. I talked to Doug. Doug had video equipment. You can videotape and then voluntarily put it up on BCTV.
So we can do that?
You can.
Okay.
And then also, I looked into what would it be to be like, do a GoFundMe? If we have people who wanted to pledge to support that. So I don't know what legal requirements around GoFundMes are from her and Miles' perspective, but I called a couple of folks and said, if I put a GoFundMe up for $1,200 or $2,400 so we could videotape Putney School Board meetings, knowing that we might have 4 months of Putney School Board meetings, so whatever, a quarter or a third of that. And so I've already gotten a couple pledges of folks who would like pledge to support one cost of one meeting, so including myself. So I just wanted to name that those were some options on the table for how to move forward.
Yeah. You might want to talk to Frank Rucker about that, because accountants get really nervous about cash flowing for school-related events, for fundraisers or whatever, that is not completely under their auspices. But you might, I don't know, maybe I'll check that for you, but yeah, because
Okay.
we've had some stuff, yeah, that he got a little anxious about.
I was gonna say, some of that may live, although it's not exactly the same thing, in some of the rules that govern how PTOs can contribute to schools. It's sort of the same idea.
Okay. Of which there are rules
There
that
are
allow it.
some, yeah,
Okay.
and I can't think of all of them, I don't know them off the top of my head, but there are some provisions.
Okay.
And that was, it comes out of some larger court cases that have to do with equity in communities that have big PTOs and can put a big financial thumb on scale versus communities that don't. So there are some rules that have come out of that. What they are, I don't know. Where they live, I don't know. But
Okay.
there is some work that's been done on that. That at least with us.
it's directly related to regular operating costs. So like our PTO could build us a new playground,
Yeah.
but they can't buy us a gym teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
We're supposed to be able to, anything that we are supposed to be able to, we should be paying for ourselves. We can't supplant that money and use other funds.
Okay.
Is there some requirement that they have to broadcast these via BCTV and so it couldn't say, have, you know, the PTSD school board YouTube channel?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, isn't that what Dummerston is doing?
Dummerston does use BCTV
Oh, do they?
once a month, but Guilford doesn't at all, Vernon doesn't at all. Bradwell does every meeting, and as you know, BU6 does every meeting. WS6, we only meet 4 times a year, so we do every meeting.
Could just be-
It might make sense to put them on BCTV just because it is a norm, and one of the things is like, where do you go watch these? Because we created our own YouTube channel, it might be an access issue, but I like the creativity, Tim.
And also, I did once have a conversation with someone from BCTV who this was a long time ago at this point. I think they said that if you paid something like $20 or $25, you could become a member of BCTV and then borrow their equipment. So if someone wanted
That
to
might be
film,
true, yeah.
use that, and then they made it sound like there's not really a cost beyond that. I don't know whether that's true or not.
The $100 is for the equipment and the person running it.
Right,
Yeah.
And they also edit,
I gotcha.
so there is that.
Do you edit, Doug?
I don't know if my new laptop has that capability. I have a new machine,
It's
so
probably safer to say no.
I've done it.
Spencer can edit, but somebody's gonna have to buy me another product from Creative Suite because he won't do it with anything except good products like they gave him at high school. Do we own any video equipment here at the school, like for you to?
You know, I don't think we have anything would be comparable to the quality that you would want. It's not, everybody's using phones, right? So there hasn't really been much call for any new purchases of video stuff in a long time. So anything we have hanging around, if we have anything, is probably 10 or more years old.
Involves VHS.
Well, not quite that bad, but you know, like mini DVs or something, something like that. So I don't think so.
Well, I'll put a pin in that membership thing because I do have a kid, Toby, would call BCTV and say, yes, the child knows how to use the video equipment. But I don't know if I'll be able to talk him into using his community service hours doing it for us.
I actually was thinking about how do we support young people who are looking for these kinds of hours to come and do it as a,
We have
Yeah.
given them out before, but generally it's
Yeah.
been like our own children because it's
Yeah,
come
right.
up. Oh no, we have to do this. And we have to move things, you know.
right.
My older son got community hours from us several times for like carrying tables.
Yeah, you could do that,
Things
sure.
like that.
Yep.
So I would just like to move that at this point we look for expenditure ways of filming meetings, particularly at this time of the transition occurring. I feel like it's really going to be critical for us to have as much transparency as possible so people really understand what's happening.
Okay, we don't need a motion for it though.
Okay, cool.
I don't know that we need a motion just to record because anybody could come in and record anytime they wanted to.
Yeah.
So we don't need a motion.
You do know that the minutes get posted on the website, right?
I have read
There's
them.
quite a list there.
Yeah, we'll see how Tim's as good at it as Emily was.
It's all right.
She said on
He's
the phone.
learning. You'll get it.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
I'm sure he will too.
3 years of law school, I bet he knows how to take notes. Just saying.
Probably.
Okay, so do we are we good with the discussion of exploring our videotaping options? Great.
I'm comfortable.
Excellent. And I will try to go through my movie Teenager as well, but, you know, God, just put that on video.
Hopefully he won't.
Yeah, he won't. No. When board meetings and stuff come on BCTV, we change the channel. Because Annie doesn't like to watch herself. I don't mind hearing myself, but I don't want to watch myself. Okay, we have the option to reconsider the transitional board appointments. Currently, it's me and Alice. I don't know if Alice still wants to, but we,
Has there been any communication with her while she's away?
no, not from me.
Okay.
Her and Lyle tell me not
No,
either.
no, I've left her alone.
Me too.
I think the wish is described.
No, she needed a little while.
The only thing I did was like forward actual school board stuff I had to forward to her, and I otherwise left her alone. And I
Did she get back to you?
No, I hope her phone is in her suitcase.
So my choice was a good one.
I think probably,
So do you want to wait for her to be here too?
do we want to wait for her to
I think so, I think
Okay.
it makes sense that she can wait on the conversations.
Yeah, I had heard conversations that seemed that people thought that it had to be the chair and the clerk. It does not.
It does not, yeah, I think we discussed that.
Yeah, but not with Jeannie.
Okay.
It can be whoever we choose to send. And I am still willing and in fact looking forward to going. So put a pin in that.
Do we know how often the transition board is meeting? It's my understanding they pick up business April 2nd. Is that accurate?
That's our next, yes, so I've
And then is it a
got,
monthly meeting?
it will be far more than monthly.
Yeah.
Once the transitional board is called in, there are a number of things they have to do. Set election dates, set annual meeting dates, but they need to start putting together the merged budget. And that will take some time. So I would guess, if not weekly, every other week until the budget is done. And then it is the job of the transition board to present that budget to the elected merged board. And then the work is done. So it could be as much as 6 weeks, 6 meetings.
Yeah. So meaning because the transition board hasn't met, or I don't know what you call the interim board,
That's the transition.
The transition board hasn't met since January. Are they going to do the work that they were going to do from January through June in April through June? Okay.
Or at least they're going to try.
Okay. And so, and the pieces of that are one, electing
Setting dates.
or setting dates for an election that is notified to the public, and then all voting members within the transitional district get to vote on folks. So people have to run.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're talking about is the pre-election folks.
Correct.
Then the public gets to vote in the transitional board, and then they've got to hustle, or we've got to hustle to create the budget.
The transitional board is the board that's going to be looking at the budget. And of course, it'll be
Yeah.
open meetings, so that if you're not on the transitional board,
Yeah.
you certainly can come. I would absolutely urge anyone that's going to run for the merged board to go to those meetings so that they have a really strong working knowledge of what the budget is, because it's a short turnaround between the merged board being elected and then having the annual meeting for the electorate to look at the budget.
And the unified budget, I'm sorry.
Are we going to be held to the date that the AOE is suggesting?
So far as I know.
April 8th, when we don't organize till the 2nd. Okay.
Means that we will have petitions ready to go out the following day, if that's what the transition board decides for dates. And then people that want to run will have just about 1 week to get petitions in.
Yeah, always my favorite part of the job.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only 20 signatures.
And so the unified board and the budget that will be voted on by so if the public disagrees with the unified budget, then they can vote against the unified budget? And if they vote against the unified budget, then what happens?
Then you have to come back, rework the budget, rewarn another meeting, and go take a new budget back to the electorate. In the past, you could borrow up to 87% of, so if, for instance, at town meeting, your budget didn't pass, you take it back, it doesn't pass, and you get to July 1 and you don't have an approved budget, you can borrow up to 87% of this past year's budget to operate on while you're still working to get a budget passed. Because
Meaning that you're paying your bills until 87% of the way through the school
Right.
year?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's
That's
what it
right.
is.
Yeah.
With hoping that you've got a budget passed before you run out.
Got it.
There is no past budget for the merged district, so we will need guidance from Montpelier on that. So if there's no
But I
merged-
thought there was a draft merged budget that had already been looked at. There was no draft. Okay, I misunderstood that in one of the meetings I watched, that there was a draft merged budget.
No, but I believe most of us were planning on passing along the budgets that we came up with individually from our schools to.
And just merging them, like the harassment, bullying policy.
So that is now, how many pages long?
Guilford and then Dummerston and then just hitting the plus equals button.
So that will be where we start with putting together all the town's budgets into one budget.
And then going and
And
then
then,
starting the trimming process from there. Because I'm sure it will involve the word I have one other piece of business, but we will not make any motions on it today because I'm just bringing it to you. I believe we will be invited to join, if not the actual lawsuit right now, the appeal. And I'm just interested in people's opinion about joining the lawsuit and or the appeal. But I don't, we would have to vote on it, and so I just thought we could chat about it today and not.
And we can chat about it.
We can, yeah, it's new business. If we want to vote on it, it has to be
Right.
on the agenda.
Yeah, right.
But we can talk about anything that comes under new business. We just can't make any decisions without warning them.
I have a lot of opinions on that. Does anybody else? I feel like I'm talking a lot.
You know what? Most people don't talk a lot when they first come on a school board. This is kind of really refreshing, actually. Instead of,
This is me
Do you understand?
attempting
Do you
to
understand?
moderate myself, so my apologies. I would want to understand all the components of that and to have a research process underway to understand all of what's involved.
okay, I'm not sure how long we would have.
Yeah.
It was.
I'm happy to do research, and I would be really curious about what questions folks would have from this body that would need to be researched.
And perhaps the first point is that no public monies are being expended on the lawsuit. So, I mean, the ones,
And you're already clear on that?
I am clear on that.
That is a big question.
I am absolutely clear on that. They're passing a hat. And I regularly get invitations to throw things into the hat in my email. So, it is not,
Okay.
it's not public monies at all. And I was told at least a month ago, maybe more, that it was an option for Putney to join the appeal. I don't know that we can go into the lawsuit now. And obviously the person who told me that was hoping that we would. So I just thought I'd throw it out there and not make any decisions tonight because they have not, no one has contacted me from that, and they have my email, they can find me. No one has contacted me to say, hey, come join us right now.
And the boards of the schools are the ones who vote on the decision of whether or not to join the lawsuit.
Correct. Yeah, I didn't feel the need to talk because I sat there on town meeting day and said it right out loud. I support the lawsuit, so.
Yeah.
Well,
It's also very interesting to me to see that, who was it who gave us a mandate recently? Did you just say it was the
Dan
Vincent
French?
Education who just
the
let us
Secretary of
know?
Education.
The Secretary of Education let us know that we will be disciplined if we do not proceed
Oh,
on the time,
He didn't say
appropriate time.
disciplined. He said whatever legal means. Unfortunately, we don't know what that means.
I hear discipline when I hear legal means.
He ain't the boss of us, really.
Right. So it's just interesting that that was put on the table in that way.
Yeah, I'm sure they do have some legal weapons at their disposal. I don't know what they are, and I don't know that they're necessarily particularly serious, because that's how Vermont works
Right.
with elected officials.
Right.
So, does anybody have anything else that they would like to bring up? Well, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
No, I'm entertaining it.
So-
No, come on.
I move that we adjourn at 5:43.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Well into the timeline.